Week 7, impact on others. Core teaching the belief that I can do whatever I want fundamentally ignores the interconnected nature of human existence. No one lives in isolation. Our choices create ripple effects that impact family, friends, communities, and even future generations. When we ignore these impacts, we not only harm others but also violate Messiah's command to love our neighbors as ourselves. This delusion of individual autonomy represents one of Satan's most effective deceptions, convincing us that our actions exist in a vacuum when, in reality, we are all threads in the divine tapestry of humanity. Expanded explanation: one of the most dangerous aspects of the consequence-free mindset is its inherent selfishness. It assumes that personal autonomy trumps responsibility to others, that my rights supersede the well-being of those around me. This perspective directly contradicts Yahuah teaching that the second greatest commandment is to love thy neighbor as thyself. Matthew 22:39. The Greek word for neighbor, plesion, encompasses not just those living nearby, but anyone with whom we come into contact, emphasizing the universal scope of this responsibility. Scripture consistently emphasizes our responsibility toward others. From Cain's dismissive question, "Am I my brother's keeper?" Genesis 4:9, to Paul's instruction to look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. Philippians 2:4. The Bible teaches that we are accountable for how our actions affect others. The ancient Hebrew understanding of community, kehilah, was radically different from modern individualism. Each person's actions were understood as either contributing to or detracting from the entire community's covenant relationship with Elohim. This accountability is particularly emphasized regarding those who are vulnerable or impressionable. Yahuah issued one of his strongest warnings about influencing others toward sin. "But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea." Matthew 18:6. The term offend, scandalizo in Greek, means to cause to stumble or fall, to influence someone toward sin or away from faith. The millstone Yahuah referenced was a large, heavy stone, approximately 1.5 tons in diameter, used for grinding grain, making his imagery particularly vivid. Death by drowning with such a weight was considered one of the most horrifying forms of execution in ancient times. The impact of our choices extends in multiple directions. First, there's the direct impact on those immediately affected by our actions. A husband's infidelity directly wounds his wife and children, creating trust issues that can last decades. A driver's intoxication directly endangers others on the road, potentially ending multiple lives in a moment. A manager's dishonesty directly harms employees and customers, affecting livelihoods and economic stability. These immediate impacts often serve as the first domino in a cascade of consequences. Second, there's the modeling impact, the example we set for those who look up to us. Parents model behavior that children imitate, often unconsciously. Church leaders establish patterns that congregants follow, sometimes with more influence than they realize. Public figures influence fans and followers through both their overt messages and subtle behaviors. When we act as though actions have no consequences, we teach others, especially the young and impressionable, to adopt the same dangerous mindset. This modeling effect is particularly powerful because it operates at the subconscious level, shaping values and beliefs without explicit instruction. Third, there's the ripple effect that extends beyond immediate relationships. A single act of violence traumatizes not just the victim but their family, friends, and community, creating circles of pain that expand outward. Financial fraud damages not just direct investors but market confidence and economic stability, potentially affecting thousands of unknown people. Marital breakdown affects extended family, friend groups, and community institutions, like stones dropped in a pond creating ever-widening circles. These ripple effects can continue long after the original action has been forgotten by its perpetrator. Fourth, there's the generational impact, the patterns we establish that can continue long after we're gone. Family systems of addiction, abuse, or abandonment often perpetuate across generations through learned behaviors and unresolved trauma. Conversely, legacies of faith, integrity, and service can bless descendants we'll never meet. The biblical concept of visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation, Exodus 20:5, speaks to this profound truth that our choices echo through time. The biblical concept of covenant underscores this interconnectedness. In Scripture, covenant relationships create mutual obligations and shared consequences. When Israel sinned collectively, the entire nation experienced consequences. Achan's sin affected all of Israel at Ai, Joshua 7. David's census brought plague upon the entire nation, 2 Samuel 24. When one member of the early church engaged in deception, Acts 5, the whole community was affected. Paul's teaching on the church as one body, 1 Corinthians 12, emphasizes that what affects one member affects all. Pain in one part creates suffering throughout the entire body. Modern research confirms this biblical wisdom across multiple disciplines. Family systems theory demonstrates how individual behaviors create patterns that affect the entire family unit, with homeostatic mechanisms that resist change but can be transformed through intentional intervention. Public health studies show how personal choices regarding substances, sexuality, and violence create community-wide consequences through both direct transmission and social normalization. Environmental science reveals how individual consumption choices collectively impact ecological systems, contributing to climate change, pollution, and resource depletion. Neurobiology research demonstrates how trauma and stress can be transmitted epigenetically across generations. The digital age has amplified our impact on others exponentially. Social media allows influence to spread instantly and globally, reaching millions with a single post. Online behavior can encourage or discourage countless strangers through algorithms that amplify engagement regardless of content quality. Digital footprints create permanent records that can impact others' perceptions for decades, affecting employment, relationships, and reputation. The interconnected nature of modern life means our sphere of influence, and therefore our responsibility, is greater than at any point in human history. A single tweet can influence someone across the globe whom we'll never meet. Understanding our impact on others doesn't mean living in paralyzing fear of making mistakes. Rather, it calls us to thoughtful consideration of how our choices affect others, humble acknowledgement when we cause harm, and willingness to adjust our behavior out of love for others. This other-centered approach reflects Messiah's example of sacrificial love and servant leadership. He who, though he was rich, yet for your sakes he became poor, 2 Corinthians 8:9, demonstrated ultimate other-centeredness. The Messianian calling is not to isolation but to intentional community, where we consider one another to provoke unto love and to good works. Hebrews 10:24. Primary scripture, but whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea. Matthew 18:6 KJV. Supporting scriptures, and the second is like unto it, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Matthew 22:39, let no man seek his own, but every man another's well-being. 1 Corinthians 10:24, look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. Philippians 2:4, bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Messiah. Galatians 6:2, none of us liveth to himself, and no man dieth to himself. Romans 14:7, for none of us liveth to himself, and no man dieth to himself. Romans 14:7, but take heed lest by any means this liberty of yours become a stumbling block to them that are weak. 1 Corinthians 8:9, it is good neither to eat flesh, nor to drink wine, nor anything whereby thy brother stumbleth, or is offended, or is made weak. Romans 14:21. Wherefore laying aside all malice, and all guile, and hypocrisies, and envies, and all evil speakings, as newborn babes, desire the sincere milk of the word, that ye may grow thereby, if so be ye have tasted that the Lord is gracious. 1 Peter 2:1-3. Let us not therefore judge one another any more, but judge this rather, that no man put a stumbling block or an occasion to fall in his brother's way. Romans 14:13. Real-world examples. Example 1. The absent father Michael prioritized his career and personal interests over family involvement, believing his choices affected only himself. He missed birthdays, school events, and daily moments of connection, justifying his absence with financial provision. 20 years later, his son struggles with abandonment issues that affect his own marriage and parenting. His daughter has chosen a series of emotionally unavailable partners, recreating the dynamic she experienced with her father. Michael's grandchildren are now growing up in unstable homes, continuing the cycle of father absence into a third generation. His personal choice to prioritize work over family created a legacy of relational dysfunction that will impact people he'll never meet. The financial provision he valued has proven inadequate to heal the emotional wounds of his absence. Example 2. The influential addict Sarah was a beloved high school teacher who secretly struggled with prescription drug addiction. She believed her private use affected no one else. When several students noticed her behavior and discovered her secret, they reasoned, if Miss Sarah uses drugs and she's successful, it must not be that harmful. 3 students began experimenting with similar substances, believing they too could use responsibly. One developed a severe addiction that led to dropping out of college. Years later, when Sarah achieved sobriety, she learned of her unintended influence and was devastated by the knowledge that her private choice had altered the trajectory of young lives she cared about deeply. Her authority as an educator had made her behavior particularly influential, creating a credibility that transferred to her substance use. Example 3. The reckless influencer Jason built a social media following by documenting increasingly dangerous stunts and pranks. He dismissed concerns about copycats, saying, "I'm not responsible for what others choose to do." After posting a video of a particularly risky driving maneuver that gained millions of views, 3 teenage fans attempted to recreate it. One died, and another was permanently disabled. The grieving parents shared messages from their son's phone showing his explicit intention to do it like Jason. Though legally cleared of responsibility, Jason now lives with the knowledge that his pursuit of views and his dismissal of his influence directly contributed to tragedy. His entertainment choices cost someone else's child their life. The algorithmic amplification of his content meant he couldn't control who saw it or how it was interpreted. Example 4. The gossip's damaged Linda considered gossip a harmless way to process information and build connections. She regularly shared sensitive details about church members, justifying it as keeping people informed or requesting prayer. When she shared unverified information about the youth pastor's marriage difficulties, the rumor spread rapidly. Though untrue, the speculation created such discomfort that he resigned. The youth group he had built scattered, with several teenagers drifting from church entirely. One later shared that the incident destroyed their trust in church community. Linda's conversations damaged a ministry, ended a career, and disrupted multiple spiritual journeys. Her words created consequences far beyond what she ever intended, demonstrating that speech can be as destructive as physical violence. Example 5. The financial fraud Robert ran a small investment firm and began falsifying returns to attract more clients. He told himself it was a victimless crime, just numbers on paper, and that eventually the real returns would catch up to his projections. When the scheme collapsed, dozens of families lost retirement savings. An elderly couple had to sell their home and move in with children. A widow couldn't afford needed medical treatments. A young family had to withdraw their children from college. At his sentencing hearing, Robert faced his victims and finally understood the human cost of his financial decisions. His choices created ripples of hardship through hundreds of lives, affecting not just current circumstances but future opportunities for entire families. Example 6. The generational impact. The Thompson family has a 4-generation history of alcoholism. It began with George, who drank heavily but insisted it was his business and affected no one else. His son James grew up with an unpredictable, sometimes violent father and began drinking as a teenager to cope with anxiety. James's daughter Catherine experienced similar childhood trauma and married an alcoholic, continuing the pattern. Catherine's son Michael is now showing early signs of substance issues. What George claimed was a personal choice has created a century-long legacy of addiction, trauma, and broken relationships. His great-grandson is fighting battles that began 3 generations before his birth because of choices George insisted affected only himself. The family's story demonstrates how trauma can be transmitted through both learned behaviors and biological predispositions. Example 7. The digital influence Emma, a popular lifestyle blogger, regularly posted about her lavish spending habits and luxury purchases, never mentioning the significant debt behind her lifestyle. Young followers, many of whom were struggling financially, began emulating her spending patterns to achieve similar social media status. Several accumulated substantial credit card debt trying to match her lifestyle. One follower declared bankruptcy at age 24. Another dropped out of college to work extra jobs. When Emma finally shared her financial struggles, the damage was already done. Her curated online life had created unrealistic expectations and led followers into financial ruin, all while she believed she was just sharing her journey. Example 8. The community leader's compromise. Marcus was a respected city council member known for his integrity. When offered a substantial bribe to approve a development project, he initially refused. However, facing personal financial pressure, he rationalized that one compromise won't hurt anyone and accepted the money. The approved development displaced dozens of low-income families and destroyed a small business district. The community lost trust in local government, voter turnout plummeted, and corruption spread as other officials followed his example. Marcus's single compromise damaged democratic processes, hurt hundreds of vulnerable residents, and eroded civic trust for years to come. Discussion questions 1. How has someone else's choices significantly impacted your life, either positively or negatively? What ripple effects did you observe? 2. Why do people often fail to consider how their actions will affect others? Is it ignorance, selfishness, or something else? 3. What areas of life do we most often mistakenly label as personal choices that don't affect others? Consider private thoughts, consumption habits, entertainment choices, etc. 4. How has technology and social media changed the scope and scale of our influence on others? What new responsibilities come with digital connectivity? 5. What responsibility do we have when we know others are watching and potentially following our example? How does this change in different contexts? Family, workplace, online. 6. How do we balance personal freedom with responsibility toward others? When should others' well-being limit our choices? 7. What generational patterns, positive or negative, do you recognize in your own family? How have choices made before your birth affected your life? 8. How does understanding our impact on others change how we think about seemingly private sins? What areas need reevaluation in light of this teaching? 9. In what ways might you be underestimating your influence on others? Who is watching you that you haven't considered? 10. How can we cultivate greater awareness of how our choices affect others in daily decision-making? Practical applications. Influence audit. Conduct a thorough assessment of who you influence and how. 1. Direct influence. List people who directly observe your life and choices. Family members, spouse, children, parents, siblings. Close friends and confidants. Coworkers and employees. Church members and fellow believers owe neighbors, and community members owe students or mentees, owe customers or clients, owe healthcare providers or service professionals. 2. Indirect influence. Identify secondary circles of influence. Owe friends of your children and family members, extended family and relatives, social media followers and online connections, community members and civic groups, future generations, children not yet born, professional colleagues and industry peers, those who hear about you through others. 3. Influence assessment. For each relationship, consider: what messages are my choices sending about values, priorities, and faith? What patterns am I establishing or reinforcing through daily habits? What would this person say they've learned from observing my life? If they imitated my behavior exactly, would the result be positive or harmful? Oh, what inconsistencies exist between my stated beliefs and actual behavior. How am I demonstrating handling of success, failure, conflict, and temptation? 4. Influence intention. Develop a specific plan to use your influence positively. Oh, what values do I want to demonstrate consistently in all areas of life? What behaviors should I modify, knowing others are watching and learning? How can I intentionally model Messiah-like character in specific situations? What legacy do I want to leave in each relationship and context? How can I use my influence to advance Elohim's kingdom purposes? What accountability structures will help maintain consistency? Impact consideration practice before significant decisions. Ask these questions. 1. Who will be directly affected by this choice? Immediate family and household members, extended family and relatives, friends and community members, workplace and professional colleagues, church family and fellow believers, those who look to me for guidance or example. 2. How will they be affected in different domains? Emotionally, will this create joy, anxiety, security, or fear? Physically, will this impact health, safety, or well-being? Oh, financially, will this create stability or hardship? Spiritually, will this draw closer to Elohim or create distance? Relationally, will this build trust or create barriers? Reputationally, how will this affect how others are perceived? 3. What message will this choice send to those who look up to me? Children and grandchildren learning values from my example, students, or mentees watching how I handle various situations. Younger believers observing Messiahian living in practice, followers or fans who may imitate my behavior, those considering faith based on my life testimony. 4. How might this impact extend beyond my awareness? Future generations inheriting patterns I establish. People I'll never meet but who may be influenced indirectly, owe broader community or society through ripple effects, church witness and testimony to non-believing observers. Cultural trends that my behavior may help normalize or resist. 5. Would I make this same choice if those affected were present and watching? If my children were observing this decision and process, if my pastor or mentor knew my true motivations, if those negatively affected were present and aware, if Yahuah were visibly present in the room, if this choice were to be publicly known and examined. Legacy planning. Develop an intentional approach to the legacy you'll leave. 1. Legacy assessment. Honestly evaluate what legacy you're currently creating. What patterns are you establishing in your family and relationships? What will people remember most about your life and character? What impact will your current trajectory have on future generations? What evidence exists of the legacy you're building daily? What corrections need to be made to align with desired legacy? 2. Legacy vision. Write a detailed description of the legacy you want to leave. Values you want to transmit to future generations. Faith elements you want to pass down and demonstrate. Character qualities you hope to inspire in others. Traditions you want to establish and maintain. Impact you want your life to have made on others and eternity. Specific memories and qualities you want others to recall. 3. Legacy strategy. Create specific plans to build your desired legacy. Regular family traditions that reinforce core values and faith. Intentional mentoring relationships with specific goals and timelines. Written or recorded wisdom to pass down to future generations. Financial decisions that reflect eternal priorities and kingdom values owe service opportunities that involve multiple generations in ministry, daily habits that compound into significant legacy over time. 4. Legacy review. Schedule quarterly times to assess whether your daily choices align with your legacy goals. Review recent decisions and their alignment with legacy vision. Seek feedback from trusted advisors about legacy impact. Adjust priorities and behaviors as needed for better alignment. Celebrate progress in building desired legacy elements. Identify areas needing immediate attention or correction. Stumbling block removal. Identify and address ways you might negatively influence others. 1. Behavior inventory. List behaviors you engage in that could cause others to sin or rationalize similar behavior, damage others' faith or trust in Messianic community, negative patterns or worldly values, create confusion about Messianic values and priorities, undermine your witness and testimony to non-believers, model hypocrisy between stated beliefs and actual behavior. 2. Freedom assessment. For each behavior, ask probing questions. Is this behavior essential to my life and spiritual well-being? Is my right to this worth potentially harming someone else's faith? Would I want someone I love and respect to imitate this behavior? Does this reflect Messiah's prioritization of others' needs above self? How does this behavior advance or hinder kingdom purposes? What would I tell someone else struggling with this same behavior? 3. Modification plan. For behaviors that could negatively influence others. Eliminate completely if possible through grace and accountability. Establish appropriate boundaries and context. If elimination isn't immediate, provide clear explanation of convictions and limitations to others. Create accountability structures for areas of weakness and temptation. Develop replacement behaviors that model positive alternatives. Seek prayer and support for lasting change and freedom. Relationship repair. For relationships where your choices have caused harm. 1. Impact acknowledgement. Fully recognize how your actions affected others. Listen without defensiveness to their experience and perspective. Avoid minimizing the impact or offering premature explanations. Accept full responsibility without qualification or justification. Understand the ripple effects beyond the immediate harm. Recognize emotional, spiritual, and practical consequences. Acknowledge the duration and depth of damage caused. 2. Genuine apology. Offer a complete apology that includes specific acknowledgement of the wrong without generalizations. Acceptance of responsibility without excuses or blame shifting. Expression of genuine remorse for pain and damage caused. Commitment to change behavior with specific steps. Request for forgiveness without demanding or expecting it. Timeline for checking in on progress and healing. 3. Restitution plan. Where possible, make concrete amends. Repair what was damaged through tangible actions. Replace what was lost through sacrificial giving or service. Restore what was taken through reconciliation and rebuilding. Reconcile. Where relationship was broken through patient rebuilding. Make financial restitution where economic damage occurred. Provide ongoing support for healing and recovery. 4. Pattern breaking. Demonstrate changed behavior over time. Establish new patterns of interaction that reflect change. Accept accountability for ongoing transformation and growth. Recognize that rebuilding trust takes significant time and consistency. Acknowledge that some consequences may be permanent this side of heaven. Allow others to set boundaries and timelines for reconciliation. Persevere in change even when immediate results aren't visible. Memory verse for the week. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea. Matthew 18:6. Closing prayer focus. Pray for awareness of how your choices affect others in seen and unseen ways, wisdom to use your influence positively for kingdom purposes, courage to change behaviors that could harm others' faith, healing for those you've hurt through past choices, and behaviors discernment about the example you're setting in all contexts, grace to balance personal freedom with responsibility to others, a legacy that honors Elohim and blesses future generations. protection for those under your influence from negative impacts, sensitivity to the Holy Spirit's conviction about harmful influences, strength to model Messiah-like other-centeredness consistently. Week 7, False Freedom Reflection Question. Why do people confuse freedom with license to sin? What cultural messages contribute to this confusion? Group prompt. Discuss John 8:34-36. What's the difference between worldly freedom and Messiah's freedom? How does each approach affect others? Journaling exercise. Write about an area where sin once enslaved you and how Yahuah brought freedom. Who else was affected by your bondage and subsequent freedom? Service project. Identify someone negatively affected by others' choices and find ways to bring healing and hope through practical service and prayer. Accountability partner. Share one area where you struggle with considering others' impact and ask for regular check-ins and prayer support.
Remember this, there is no such thing as life without accountability. Every seed we sow will bring forth a harvest. Do not believe the lie of no consequences, for Yahuah is not mocked. This week, choose wisely, walk humbly, and live with holy awareness that your actions matter before the Most High. Let us reject the deception, embrace accountability, and walk in the freedom of Yahshua HaMashiach. For what we do in secret will be revealed, and what we sow today will shape the harvest of tomorrow. Walk in truth, walk in accountability, walk in life. And if this teaching has blessed you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content that will strengthen your faith and keep you walking in truth and life.